Hey mamas, I'm Brooke Miller, registered dietitian, certified lactation counselor, and a mama who has helped hundreds of moms feel like themselves again after baby, boost their energy, mood, metabolism, and even milk supply. Inside of the Postpartum Shift podcast, you'll learn how to take care of your health so that you can show up best for the ones you care about most. Each week, we'll tackle topics like nutrition, exercise, breastfeeding, mental health, and so much more. Plus, you'll get access to guest experts who will share ways to make your pregnancy and postpartum experience easier. Whether you're approaching the postpartum period or you're right in the thick of it, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I am going to talk about breastfeeding while pregnant. So I've had a lot of DMs lately asking me, is it possible to get pregnant while breastfeeding? What's it going to do to my milk supply? My baby's X amount years old and I want to get pregnant again. What should I consider? And so I wanted to break this down in this episode. So I am currently about 32 weeks pregnant. I am still breastfeeding once a day. Some days we skip it. Some days it's twice a day. I would say on average it is once a day. I have gone back and forth truthfully for like the last month on if I want to wean him, this month before baby arrives, or if I'm just going to tandem breastfeed. I'm honestly still undecided. There's so many reasons. So my son is turning 2 this month, and my goal for my first son was to breastfeed him 2 years. He completely weaned himself right around 22, 23 months. So I was a little sad and disappointed. I was like, oh, we didn't hit my 2-year goal. It was like a month short, but he was just over it. And he started biting me. And at that point I was like, I had a bloody nipple once and I was like, I'm done. And so honestly, weaning him was very quick and easy. It happened before I was probably ready, but he was ready. And the process of weaning him was super easy. My second son, not so much. He, truthfully, if I allowed him to breastfeed 5 times a day, he would be all over that. This kid loves the boobs more than any baby and child I've ever seen. And truthfully, it's funny because I thought that at the 2-year mark, I would just be like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm ready to wean. I have just been getting so touched out and annoyed recently. And I think part of it is the pregnancy hormones, because while you're pregnant, your nipples are just a little bit sore. Your milk supply dips when you're pregnant too. And so that's another thing that is hard. My son honestly didn't seem to care at all when my milk supply dipped. It's it doesn't faze him. I think for him, it's definitely the comfort thing more than, the nutrition thing. But anyway, I wanted to just kind of talk about our experience, but also answer some common questions I've been getting in the DM. So one girl reached out to me recently and she said, hey, and I can't remember offhand, but I want to say she was about 6 months postpartum. And she's like, we want to get pregnant again for sure by the time that my baby's a year. I'm breastfeeding, you're breastfeeding. What would you say your recommendations are? And all I said back was, just know that your milk supply is likely going to dip. And, depending on your baby's age, that's something to be aware of. If your baby is, under 6 months and they're completely reliant on breast milk and then you get pregnant within the first 6 months postpartum, just know that that's going to probably play into it. Or even if your baby's under a year and they're not eating a ton of solids yet, just know that your milk supply dipping is a very, very, very real possibility. Typically, your milk supply, you're going to notice the biggest dip around 4 to 5 months of pregnancy. For most people, that's when it dips the most. But I noticed that my milk supply dipped it was closer to probably 3 months. And it was because I never pump because I'm always with my son, but I had to go on a work trip and I was pumping, and normally I was, again, I was only nursing him twice a day at this point, so it wasn't very frequent. But when I was pumping, I was getting 1 to 2 ounces total. And so I was like, okay, my milk supply is definitely drastically dipped. And at this point, yeah, I was probably close to 3 months pregnant. And so, Milk supply can start dipping, in the first 2 months of pregnancy, but typically it's going to dip the most around 4 to 5 months of pregnancy. So that's just something to keep in mind if your baby is currently, very reliant on your breast milk and you're thinking about spacing your kids really close together. Just know that while it's completely possible to breastfeed while pregnant, just know that your milk supply is going to dip. And so for me, we got pregnant. Gosh, I can't even remember how old Sawyer was, but he was over 1. He was eating a ton of solids. Like he loves his solid foods. And so for me, I knew that my milk supply was going to dip, but it didn't really matter as much to me because, he was only breastfeeding 2 or 3 times a day when I got pregnant at the very beginning of my pregnancy. And then, it was pretty much just 1 to 2 times a day for most of it. And so for us, it wasn't that big of a deal that my milk supply was dipping, but again, something to keep in mind. If you've been wanting to reach your healthiest weight and feel like yourself again postpartum without having to sacrifice your favorite foods or your milk supply, I've got a free workshop just for you. Inside of this free workshop, you'll discover how to boost energy, mood, metabolism, and even protect your milk supply. You'll learn common mistakes that moms make that actually cause exhaustion, mood swings, low milk supply, and weight loss resistance to become worse, things that moms don't even realize. And you'll learn the proven 3-step method to heal your hormones and metabolism after baby so you can go from surviving to thriving postpartum. Plus, as a free gift, you'll get my postpartum snack guide when you come hang out with us. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes to save your seat today. Spots are limited. See you there. Something else to keep in mind is that you can have like sore nipples and nipple pain, while you're pregnant. And then when your kid is like wanting to breastfeed all the time, it can just feel, I felt that irritation of like, oh, like my nipples hurt. Like I don't want anyone to touch them. And so that is something to keep in mind too. For some women, the pain is so severe that they end up are like, I'm done, I'm weaning. And I totally understand why moms do that because I was there. I mean, mine weren't as painful, but I have friends that had really, really, really strong nipple pain while they were pregnant and breastfeeding, and they decided to wean at that point. And again, totally, totally understandable. Your milk also changes composition. So once you hit your 3rd trimester where I'm at, your milk starts to turn back into this colostrum like it was when your baby is born. So when you are like 7 or 8 or 9 months pregnant, even if you were to pump, you're not going to be getting this like really, like your milk composition is going to change. So when we have our baby right away, our milk is very yellow and it's very thick and it's filled with all these antibodies. It's just this like thick consistency. And then as our baby gets older, the nutrition composition changes. So our milk, isn't as fatty, and the composition of protein and carbohydrates and fat in our milk changes as our baby ages. But again, when we're like breastfeeding a toddler, the milk composition is very different. And then when we're pregnant, then our milk composition is again changing for the new baby. And so 100% it is possible to continue breastfeeding while pregnant. You can absolutely do whatever you feel comfortable with. If you get pregnant and you're like, this is too much, I want to wean, absolutely wean. If you are like, you know what, I'm here for it, I'm going to tandem breastfeed both kids, that's incredible too. So I will definitely record a podcast episode if I am tandem breastfeeding, if I decide to keep going. And, honestly, that whole transition is going to be very interesting. So if I am tandem breastfeeding both kids, I will definitely record a podcast episode. But the biggest thing with tandem breastfeeding is your baby comes first. Like they are completely reliant on breast milk, whereas your toddler is not. They're eating a wide variety of foods. And so the nice thing is, you want to be able to feed the baby first from both sides. And then after that, if your toddler wants to nurse, then you can obviously let them nurse. The nice thing about tandem breastfeeding too is it just really helps with your milk supply in the first, especially month, postpartum. So as your milk supply is getting established, you're very unlikely to struggle with low milk supply if you are tandem breastfeeding, because your baby is going to feed from both sides and then your toddler is going to get random feeds here and there. Even if it's just once or twice a day that your toddler is breastfeeding, that is actually going to help your milk supply for your newborn. So there are definitely so many perks to tandem breastfeeding For some moms, they find that it actually helps their older child transition to having a new baby around. And so for me, I'm still like, gosh, I don't know how Sawyer is going to deal with this. I was like, part of me thinks he might transition a lot better to the baby coming if he, is able to watch the baby nurse, but also if he's able to get on one side while the baby's nursing after, maybe he'll be more okay with the baby. I was like, maybe he's going to get more jealous of the baby. Like, I don't know. Every child is so unique and every situation is so unique. And that's why you really have to make that decision for you and what is best for you. But the biggest thing is to keep in mind is that the likelihood that your milk supply will dip when you're pregnant is very high. There are so many hormone shifts that happen, the hormones that are responsible for your milk. So, prolactin, oxytocin, estrogen, progesterone, like all of these hormones change when you're pregnant. They're very different during pregnancy than they are postpartum. And this is why your milk supply will be impacted. To the extent your milk supply will be impacted really varies by person, and obviously my milk supply dipped very drastically while I was pregnant. But again, I was only nursing once or twice a day. So my milk supply already wasn't as high as somebody maybe who gets pregnant at 6 months postpartum. They're breastfeeding 8 times a day. That mom, she may not see such a drastic milk supply dip. But again, she will probably see some of it. So that's just something to keep in mind if you really, really want to reach your breastfeeding goals with your, older child, but you also want to get pregnant again. That's just something to keep in mind. So absolutely possible to do both. And every situation is different. And, it is funny to hear comments from like family and friends. I would say almost all of my family and almost all of my friends, I would say 99% of them have been like, why haven't you weaned him yet? He's almost 2. You need to wean him before the baby comes. Even my medical providers were like, I don't want you to go into preterm labor. And I was like, I'm breastfeeding once a day. I'm not too worried about preterm labor. So I would say there's really nobody in my life who is like, yeah, you should tandem breastfeed. You should breastfeed both kids at once. I would say pretty much every single person in my life has told me to wean. So it's a very personal decision. And that's honestly part of the reason why I've been so back and forth with it is I just want to do whatever is going to be the easiest transition, especially for my older son. And I don't know what that is. And so I'm really stuck in this hard place right now of, will it be easier to wean him now? And, will that transition be easier for him when baby comes, or will it be easier to, let him and the baby bond in that way together? Like, I don't know. So I don't have a good answer. I am still on the fence. And if you are struggling with that decision, just know that I'm with you. And again, if I am tandem breastfeeding, I will record an episode once baby is here. And I will share all of the good, the bad, the ugly, our experience. And if I do decide to wean and we're like officially weaned for weeks, then I will record an episode as well and kind of let you know what helped us wean. And, weaning a baby who doesn't want to wean, that it is really hard, because in an ideal world, in an ideal situation, you wean when you and the baby are both ready. And it's really hard to find that time, because usually the baby is ready before you are, or usually the mom is usually in most cases, the mom is ready before the baby. And so it is really hard to find that middle ground where the mom and the baby are both ready at the exact same time. It's really hard to find that. And so I am just sending you all the love if you are in that same position, if you're struggling with making this decision like I am right now of when should I wean, when am I ready, what's going to be easier for our family, what's going to be easier for this transition. There's not a clear and easy decision. And so you just really have to trust your gut. And for me, I'm taking it day by day. I'm literally just saying, if he weans before baby arrives, that's okay. And if he really doesn't, that's okay too. I'll deal with it. I haven't been offering the breast at all. So if he is like begging and begging and begging, I have been limiting it to once a day. And that has been it. I haven't been offering it at all. And so we'll just kind of see what happens, and I'll keep everybody in the podcast community posted, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a great day. Exercise is crucial for our overall mental and physical health, especially during pregnancy and postpartum. Something that has helped me stay really consistent with strength training and yoga at home during nap time is the Expecting and Empowered workout app. I love that I can choose how many weeks pregnant or postpartum I am, and the app tells me exactly what to do. Plus, there's cardio, yoga, and strength training options for new moms and moms to be. You can go ahead and click the link in the show notes to get 7 days free and also save 15% off the annual option when you use promo code Nutrition for Mamas. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to the Postpartum Shift podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could share this episode with a mom friend and leave a written review. This helps the podcast reach and help even more moms. Come say hi over on Instagram at Nutrition for Mamas.